Hello, one all, my view that time reincarnated slime, Ramos' warning. And despite that being the name of this episode, we didn't actually get to hear any more of a warning than we did last week, which was interesting. Very, very interesting. I think I get why they did that. I mean, the last two episodes basically just been everyone sitting around in a circle talking about, politics and trade deals and all that. And that's boring a lot of people. I mean, Gapta literally slept through this entire episode. And yet still somehow managed to applaud even though he was asleep, which, impressive. Very, very impressive. But a lot of fans online, they are annoyed. They were complaining just like they were during Season 2, Part 1, the start of Season 2, Part 1, about how there was not enough action in the series. And that makes sense because this isn't really an action series. I mean, the world building, the country building, trade deals, politics, that's always been a much, much bigger part of the series than the combat has ever been. But for those of you who are in the series for the combat, those of you who want to see more fighting, do not worry, because right now we are on Volume 6, and of the 10 volumes I've read, this is probably the most action-packed. This is the one with the most fighting in it. Believe me, it will get more exciting down the road, and you have a lot to look forward to. Oh yeah, I also mentioned this in my last video, but Ramos wasn't supposed to actually come here when she did. She was supposed to come, basically at the end of this episode before part 2 of the meeting. Though I'm actually kind of curious how they're going to do part 2 of the meeting because a lot of part 2 relies on information they don't currently have. I mean, I said before in my episode 1 video that there was supposed to be, the big important meeting, and then Rimuru went to go deal with Veldora for 3 days, and then he came back and had this big monster and man summit. But the first meeting was when Rimuru gave out the jobs, Shion, go interrogate the prisoners. Benimaru, go figure out our fighting power. Zoe, go investigate Clayman. But, Rimuru didn't actually have the chance to do that. He didn't actually have the chance to give out those orders. No one's actually had the chance to, get those jobs done. They don't have the information they need for the next big important meeting. So, very, very curious about that. Plus, everyone seemed to have basically left. So, I think they're going to cut out a large part of the second half of the meeting, which is going to be very, very interesting. But whatever. Anyway, so Rimuru shows up and immediately Diablo catches her. Oh, I love it. I freaking love you, Diablo. And, it's just absolutely amazing that he is holding one of the oldest demon lords in the world in his hands like she's nothing. And what's more, Diablo is just really good at reading Rimuru's mind, knowing exactly what he wants, because Rimuru didn't give any orders, but Diablo knew instinctively to hand Ramos off to him so he'd go hand her off to Veldora. Oh, I love that. Seriously, Veldora didn't have to do anything. He didn't have to threaten her at all. Just as soon as she realized that she was standing in front of the freaking storm dragon, she immediately blacked out of utter and complete fear, and then spent the entire rest of the episode asleep, basically. And very interesting to note that she did not come here alone. I mean, it was very, very subtle, but she brought, basically her butler along with her. I mean, you can see him in a few shots, and I was very, very surprised by that. I mean, we still haven't actually gotten his introduction. I mean, that was supposed to happen at the end of Season 1. I thought we'd get it, in the beginning of Season 2, Part 1, but no, we still have not gotten yet. They still haven't filled in that blank, so I guess next episode is going to be fully focused on Ramos, including the backstory for her butler. I'm very, very curious about that. Also, definitely worth noting that in the manga and light novel, Veldora is so focused on the manga's reading, on the mystery behind it, that he refuses to actually look after Ramos, so Rimuru spoils the ending for him. Oh, that was mean. That was so, so mean. Seriously. Though in his defense, light novel Veldora is much more of a spoiled brat than manga and anime Veldora is. He's more needy, he's more whiny, he's more arrogant. Whereas in the manga and anime, Veldora comes off more as just a cool uncle, He's always sitting around, always there to lend a helping hand if you need it. Like if you need to cover up 20,000 murders. Oh god, and just the line he has about how he and Rimuru now share karma. Oh my freaking god, that is my favorite Veldora line in this entire freaking series, seriously. And the best part is, it wasn't even in the light novel. They added it into the manga and included it in the anime, and I'm so, so glad they did. Oh, it really made me love Veldora so much more. But anyway, now that Ramos is mostly taken care of, they can get into the actual meeting and the story they've decided to tell in order to cover up the fact that Rimuru is capable of murdering 20,000 people by himself is that, there's this big, epic battle. The forces of Tempest, the forces of Falmus, they clash. There are losses on both sides, but then the blood, it seeped into the ground and woke the ancient evil storm dragon from his long slumber, and he burst forth and wanted to destroy the entire world. But the righteous champion Yom and the peaceful loving Slime, the leader of Tempest, managed to calm him down, turn him into their guardian deity, and, basically turned Rimuru into a demon lord for the sake of being able to properly negotiate with him. Yay! Everybody wins! And that's, a pretty good story to tell. I mean, for one thing, it raises Yom's reputation, which can be very important if they want to make him the next king. For another, it basically tells the world that Rimuru is not that some sort of awful monster who would murder 20,000 people. It was a storm dragon, being an entity that literally everyone in the entire world fears, meaning that no other nation is really going to try and attack Tempest because they really, really don't want to tick off the freaking storm dragon. Seriously, no one on the planet wants to tick off the freaking storm dragon. And the next step of the plan is to give the king back to Falmouth and then force the country to pay some huge, huge reparations to cover the cost that Tempest sustained during the war, even though they didn't really suffer many, if any, cost at all. But, it's a very good excuse for basically starting a civil war, because the king does not have enough money to actually pay the reparations, and he just lost, 20,000 people, 20,000 young, hardworking soldiers, which is going to take a huge, huge impact on their economy. So he'd basically be forced to take the money from the other nobles, and they are, basically just as greedy as he is, so they'd say no, the king would lose all authority, and that would basically start a civil war. Or the king could just say, you know what, no, I refuse to pay the reparations, and what's more, I'm going to attack Tempest again, at which point Rimuru was completely free and fully legally allowed to go attack the country, to go attack Tempest, take it over, and make Yom the next king. Huzzah! And nobody really has too many problems with the plan, except for the fact that they want to turn Yom, who was a commoner turned prisoner turned mercenary, into the freaking king. I mean, seriously, Yom can't even read or write right now, so yeah, there's a whole lot of work they need to do to actually turn him into a freaking king. And Gazelle questions him. Gazelle tests him by using his full force of his hero's ambition to see if he's worthy, to see if he has the guts and determination to truly be a king. And Yom stands up. Yom's able to look him straight in the eye and say, you know what? No, I don't want to be a king. I don't want to worry about protecting my people. But Rimuru asks of me. Rimuru's done so much good to me that I can't let him down. I can't say no to him. And what's more, I want to look good to my woman. Seriously, he's going to become the king, at least partly because he wants to impress the woman he loves, and I freaking love it. I freaking love it. I mean, there are definitely worse reasons to try and become a king, and this is his motivation. This is what's going to push him forward, make sure he never gives up no matter what happens, and that's basically enough to satisfy everyone else. They're like, yeah, you know what, this dude's insane, he's crazy, he's trying to become a king for the sake of a girl he loves, but, he's got the guts, so it's going to work out for him. And even Grucius stands up to him and says that Yom might be an idiot. Yes, he's definitely an idiot. I mean, he uses the word idiot quite a bit, but he's determined that, Yom will become a hero king. He will become as amazing as King Gazelle is. And, good for him. Those three are a very, very interesting trio, and I freaking love them. But anyway, like I said, this is enough to convince Gazelle that Yom can in fact become a king. It even says, if you need anything down the road, just ask for my help and I will give it to you. Though this isn't a fully selfless decision on Gazelle's part, because one of the biggest issues facing Dwargon right now is the fact they don't have enough farmable land to actually produce enough food to feed all their people. But Falmouth has a whole bunch of land, and they are really, really good at agriculture. So if Yom becomes the king of Falmouth and make better use of the land, then Gazelle can get a whole bunch of food for a reasonable price, and that's exactly what he wants. Interesting enough, though, that's also what Tempest wants, because, Tempest doesn't have a lot of really good farmland right now. That's been a big issue they've been facing for a while now. That's the whole reason why they made that deal with Demon Lord Carrion back during Season 2, Part 1, because, they needed fruits and vegetables, things they couldn't, just find through scrimmaging around the forest of Jura. So basically, it's in everyone's best interest to make Yom king so we can get them the food they need to survive. Yay! And then Fuse steps up and explains there are two nobles in Falmouth who have close ties to Blumund and who can be used to help make Yom the king even more quickly. Huzzah! And he actually says in this line that he's a statesman right now. He's not joking. In the light novel, he actually called up the King of Blumund while Rimuru was in the meeting with Gazelle and the Archduke, and had a document drafted up that gave him full representational rights, basically making him an ambassador to Blumund and giving him full representational rights, basically giving him the same authority as the king to make any deal he wants right now. So yeah, Blumund really, really does trust this man. In fact, Fuse even says that he's privy to several pieces of information that could sink the kingdom if released, so yeah, you really, really don't want to get on this dude's bad side. And the Archduke is just very, very confused by all of this, as seen by his psychotic laughter, which was, yeah, that was unnerving. That was very, very unnerving, as he's basically wondering why the nation of Blumund has gone to such great lengths to recognize the City of Monsters as actually being a nation, why they entered the trade agreement, why they signed the Mutual Defense Pact, why they actually bothered to uphold the Mutual Defense Pact and come running to lend a hand when they went to war with Falmouth. Why didn't they instead, contact the Western Holy Church and send reports to them, basically play both sides against one another? Why put all your eggs in one basket And the response he gets back is rather interesting, as Fuse basically says that's exactly what I told the king to do, but the king disagreed. The king decided to err on the side of friendship with the nation of Tempest, with the nation of monsters. And it's not because he is just some sap who's like, oh, we can all get along, we have the power of friendship. No, the king realized, yeah, if we take off Tempest, they could kill us. And there is literally nothing we could do about it. I mean, the Western Holy Church is all about protecting humans from monsters, but they don't have an unlimited number of resources. They prioritize the countries where Luminism, the faith, is much, much more widespread, and Blummin just is not a very religious country, so even if Tempest did attack them, they probably wouldn't get all that much backup, all that much help from the Western Holy Church. They decided, let's just go all in, let's just become friends with Tempest. Let's earn their trust, let's build friendship, and find a way to coexist. Because that was literally the only way he thought they could actually survive. And it worked for them. They've become friends with Tempest, and as a result, they've really managed to thrive. Right now, there's a highway connecting Blummin to Tempest, meaning all the traders and merchants who want to get the unique products they can only get in Tempest need to pass through Blummin, and as a result, the country is thriving. They're seeing more tourists, more business, more everything than they ever have in their entire lives, in the entire history of the country. So yeah, it was a very, very good idea to put their faith in Rimuru. And this is enough to mostly satisfy the Archduke, but he still has to ask Rimuru, okay, well, what are your plans now? What are you planning on doing now that you became a demon lord? And Rimuru responds by unleashing his lord's ambition, which, oh, I love his ability. I freaking love his ability. Though I am seeing people online saying it was much more impactful in the manga, and yeah, I will say that. It didn't really, bring off its full power in the anime. That's a little bit disappointing, but Lord's ambition, it is so overwhelmingly powerful that even King Gazelle is astonished. Even he realizes how far outside of his league Rimuru is, how much more powerful he is than him right now. And it's actually said in a later volume that Rimuru's lord's ambition is enough to kill ordinary men, or at the very least cause permanent psychological damage. So yeah, don't take off Rimuru. Really, really bad idea to take off Rimuru. On top of all this, I really just love Rimuru's response, basically saying he wants to live as happy a life as he can in his country with as many happy people as possible. And it's just as flowery as the speech he gave in Dwargon, which Gazelle gave 0 points, but now Rimuru actually has the power to back it up. And what's more, he's shown that he's willing to actually take down anyone who comes in his way. He's willing to do whatever he needs to make his dream become a reality. And then, oh god, his next line. Ideals without power are just words. Power without ideals is absolutely nothing. Oh, I love it. I freaking love it. And that's enough to convince the Archduke on his knees and immediately asks to form a formal alliance with Tempest, realizing that with Rimuru at their head, they will accomplish great amazing things. They will become the greatest nation in the world, and he wants Thalion to have a piece of it. He wants Thalion to grow from it, to benefit from Tempest's growth as well. Huzzah! And this also just basically means that Yom's claims to the throne of Falmus are now being backed up by the nation of Blummin, the nation of Dwargon, the nation of Thalion, and the nation of Tempest, whose leader is a freaking demon lord who tamed the storm dragon Veldora. So yeah, no matter what comes up, there is no doubt in my mind that Yom will eventually become the king. How many people are going to still be left alive when that happens, though? That's another question. I mean, are they have to go to full war against Falmus in order to, basically make Yom king? I mean, they have the two noble spies, basically, in Falmus who are going to help them along the way, so that's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see. Can't wait for that. And then the meeting basically wraps up, even though Rimuru has apparently completely forgotten about Ramars, which... Interesting. I was really expecting the last 10, 20 seconds of the episode, Rimuru would pop back up and say, oh yeah, Ramars, didn't you have something you want to say? And, we'd end on another big cliffhanger, basically the same cliffhanger last episode ended up on. But no, that didn't happen. And it's, late afternoon, so I'm guessing that, she won't actually wake up, she won't actually come back to Rimuru until tomorrow, which, that'd be interesting. That'd be very, very interesting. I'm excited to see that, though. And then we flash over to Clayman. Yay! Yeah, not so much. As he basically explains his big plan is to go murder everyone in Carrion's territory with the hopes of turning himself into a demon lord. With the justification being that Rimuru killed his subordinate, killed Murin, so therefore he's fully free to go attack them. It's not breaking the treaty because Carrion attacked him first. Even though that logic makes absolutely no sense, it's enough to probably convince the other demon lords. And the Ploss is really bothered by all this, bothered by how Clayman has no remorse, no guilt, no sadness over the death of his subordinate, someone he has worked with so very, very long, or how he's so easily able to talk about going out and murdering hundreds and thousands of women and children, innocent people. He even says, ever since he reached the ranks of Demon Lord, it's like he's grown more and more twisted. So, yeah, Clayman, you are really going down the wrong path, though I guess, based on what Laplace said, there was one point where Clayman wasn't so evil, where Clayman was a nicer guy. Interesting. Clayman redemption arc. I mean, that seems very, very unlikely. We'll see about that. Let me know down below what you think's gonna happen next. I mean, like I said before, There's supposed to be like a whole second part of this meeting. In the manga, this was Human-Man Alliance Part 1. There's still supposed to be a second chapter after this that's, the rest of the meeting, but they haven't actually gotten any information out of the prisoners of war, so there's not a whole lot they can talk about in the second half besides just, boring political stuff explaining what each side is going to get out of the treaty, stuff like that. Things that, a lot of people aren't going to be all that interested in, and which they can fairly easily skip over without too much of an issue. But either way, next episode will be them preparing for the war against Clayman, the war to end all wars. Oh, I can't wait. I can't freaking wait for it. Things are going to get fun. Things are going to get very, very fun down the road. But thank you all down below. Be sure to like, check out the next video. Until then, peace.